to reconvene our meeting at 8:15 p.m. And you know what? We already approved the agenda. I have a comment here from.
We have the communication section next.
Yeah,
so.
that'll have to.
Need another copy of the agenda.
You know, I've actually got it.
Oh, I got one.
Oh, there. Okay,
All right,
thanks.
thanks.
Um,
Because I put that one in your spot earlier.
So it looks like we just can move right on to comments from our administrators.
She has mine.
If anybody
I'll
feels
pass.
they haven't already commented enough.
I'll also pass.
Okay.
Communications.
Then comments from board members. Mr. Tidy, do you have anything further to say?
I would like to pass.
Ms. Brizuela? Well, I had some comments written down which I logged out of, so I can't see them. But
Yeah. Just thanks once again for everyone who came out tonight.
Mr. Waters?
Yeah, pass.
Okay. I do want to make a small public service announcement that the Daly City Public Libraries are participating in the Food for Fines program. Through the end of the year, you can bring food for the Second Harvest Food Bank to the library to get your fines dismissed. We'll also cover hold fees. This is serves a great twofold purpose for our students. One, no child should be barred from books because of outstanding fines. And secondly, of course, it's pretty hard to be a good student if you're hungry. So, you know, dig down and give. I want to say when I was at work yesterday, somebody came in, and I don't know what they owed in fines. I don't think it was that much, but they heard about the program. They went out and brought 2 large bags of groceries back and put them in the bin to get rid of whatever those fines were.
Wow.
So that's the kind of community we live in, and appreciate that. But just to let people know, this is the chance. Take care of those fines, get back in good standing with the library, and help out the Second Harvest Food Bank. Okay, persons wishing to address the board. Ruth McHale?
Hello, my name is Ruth McHale. I'm a teacher at Westlake School, and I wish to move an item from the agenda from number 1, the last comments from any board member. After that, I'd like to move that to communications right now.
Pardon?
What?
What's going on?
Yes, I'm showing you which one it is listed as number 1, where a person's wishing to address the board. I'd like to move that to communications now.
Point of,
That is actually.
That's item 1. At the end.
Oh, at the end, okay.
Yeah.
You know what,
Do we-
it's actually duplicated. We have opportunities to address the board both now and at the end.
Oh, all right.
Just in
good.
case something needs to be said when we're all done.
Oh.
So, yeah.
is it
All right.
appropriate for someone else to make changes
yes.
in our
Well,
agenda?
we have persons wishing to address the board right now.
We have a specific agendized item at the end. It's a specific item.
I'd like to make that motion.
Wait.
I'd like to make a motion that we move.
Oh, I see, that's not, okay,
Yeah.
that's a specific item, not just.
Too many people are talking. I don't.
Reclaiming the promise,
Oh,
right.
okay.
So I'm making the motion
Yeah,
to
yeah.
reclaim the promise of public education initiative to the beginning of the meeting,
Correct.
underneath the comments from the board that we just finished.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Good.
I see what it is, because that was a specific thing, not just general comments.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a second for that motion?
I'm confused.
Well, the comments for persons wishing to address the board at the end is actually agendized as a specific item that Ms. Dart will be addressing. So in order to move that up now so that everybody can hear it, we need to approve that
I made a motion
change.
to move it up there, so we just need a second.
That's all we need.
Yeah,
Just a second.
well, I'll second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition?
That's
Okay.
funny.
Okay. And so then I have Melinda Dart.
Okay.
We put it there for a
Thank you.
reason.
There's actually a PowerPoint with this, and thank you for having it
Funny. bumped
up a bit, because some folks would like to see it, but they will need to eventually go to bed, as I know everybody does. And I appreciate your listening to this presentation, which I think is important to all of us, though, especially at the start of a new board being seated and beginning new terms here, because what this is about is a campaign that teachers of both unions, community members, and other labor unions have joined together on to ask for a reclamation of dedication to quality public education for all children. And I don't think anybody's going to have any problem with any of these tenets, but we do want to go over them briefly just so everyone knows what Reclaim the Promise is all about. And hopefully that you keep it in mind as you begin your terms. So we are hoping across the nation, not just here, that neighborhood public schools are safe, welcoming places, that teachers and school staff are well prepared, supported, have manageable class sizes, and time to collaborate, and that children have engaging curriculum focusing on teaching and learning, not just testing, and that children and their families have access to wraparound services and to meet their social and emotional and health needs as well. And for instance, what that might look like in Daly City is an attempt to bring back full-time counselors at the middle school, to bring back perhaps more nurses into our district, and so we're hoping that now that we've got a rosier financial outlook, that can start to happen. The principles that unite us are, I'm just going to zip a little bit faster through them, but they reflect our joint efforts to say that we believe in public education, and we want to differentiate our agenda from the corporate agenda of education. Access to good public schools is crucial in our community and everywhere else, so we're committed to working together with you all to keep our schools strong. And you, of course, are under, many mandates. Everybody has bosses, right? But the model of race to the top and the effect of the punitive effects of program improvement, that whole system has fostered competition as opposed to collaboration. So we're looking for a turning away from that without saying that we're not going to fulfill our obligations, but let us look forward and really concentrate on good teaching once again in our district, and not a program that creates winners and losers, as Race to the Top did. Our voices matter. You know that we constantly assert that, but we're hoping that you keep in mind that those closest to the education process, that is teachers and administrators and school staff and students and their parents and their community members, must have a voice in education policy and practice, and our schools should be guided by them. And we have a great opportunity for more community input and parent input coming up under the new funding model, the LCFF. I know that the district will be asking for parent involvement and community involvement on a committee called the LCAP. So we're looking forward to having more people involved in what they want in their schools. As you all know, that our community can't really thrive without strong public education. We can't eradicate poverty in our schools, but we can offer support services in our schools and bring back some of the things that we've been missing since the years of cuts, such as counselors, nurses, and perhaps motivating programs such as after-school sports, and perhaps full-time librarians at our middle schools again. Assessments should be used to improve instruction and guide it, but I think all teachers are tired of assessments being the dominant force and the high stakes around them. It takes a lot of instructional time, preparing for assessments. We have a new opportunity now with the new Common Core standards. We have a new test coming up, but let us not get so obsessed with achieving high marks right away on this new test, the Smarter Balance. For one thing, it's probably not possible to right away ace a test, which is so different than the ones we're used to. And let us be able to concentrate as educators on truly educating the whole child and not just being so test-driven as we have been. In our district, I think teachers have felt supported to a degree, but we are not untouched by what we consider a war on teachers and the negative press that's been out there. We too have felt that monitoring visits were too much on the monitoring end and less about collaborating all of us together for the best education we can deliver. You have, as you know, very committed teachers here in our district. You have teachers that have only just found out about the Common Core standards in workshops and are already going back to their classrooms and trying some of the new programs and the new ideas. You have teachers adopting structured student talk and text-dependent questions right away and doing a great job at implementing them. So let's support our teachers. Let's understand that they are our assets in the schools. Let's stop blaming teachers for the ills of society, and let's recognize that we have teachers here who not only stay up late at night correcting homework and things like that, but also go to meetings on Saturdays with the California Federation of Teachers to serve on committees around special ed, educational issues, and early education, and EL education. So let us really recognize that we can all give input and can all drive improvement in the schools and collaborate on that and have a new era of collaboration between everyone in our district. I think already our schools are welcoming and respectful places for all, but I know that we do need to find ways to encourage parents to be more involved in our schools. The union is happy to help and assist with that. We've been holding family education workshops at night, and we are happy to partner with the district in getting more parental involvement. In fact, we've been giving out surveys to the public, and we do have some preliminary results on that. We have found that the number one desire of the people that we've surveyed, which is about 100 people in our district, the number one desire is clean and safe schools. Experienced teachers comes next. Class sizes is in there as a concern. Curriculum is a concern. Access to supplies and equipment falls last because I think we do have good access to supplies and equipment. As far as programs, after-school programs come first. Full-time libraries come second. Music is number 3. Art, number 4, counselors 5, and full-time school nurses, number 6. So we did want to share with you some of the results of those surveys. We strongly believe, as I know you do, that all our schools must be fully funded for success and equity. And 50 years ago, of course, Brown versus Board of Education acknowledged the Supreme Court acknowledged that African American students were being denied their constitutional right to a full, equitable public education. Today, the issues are still there in disparity, right? California is still number 51st in the nation in spite of Prop 30, which has helped, but obviously it's not enough. And today's students cannot wait 5 years to see Prop 30 fully funded. So let's work together to demand fair funding in California in education. So, in conclusion, we are just making a call to action for you, for all of us, for the community, to join with us to support public schools, to realize that some of the demands and mandates that we've been under actually are destructive to our schools, such as the emphasis on high-stakes testing. So even though we have to fulfill legal requirements, let us please recognize that teachers have different styles, that they need to deliver curriculum in their own style, that we can work together within the confines of what we have set up, but we can also use creativity and professional judgment and recognize each other's expertise, and probably end up making our schools much, much better with that kind of atmosphere. So thanks very much, and be sure you get a pin from us. We do have pins about Reclaim the Promise of Public Education.
Answer a couple of questions.
Okay. Actually, can, well, yeah, it's agendized, so I guess we can.
Yeah.
Any board members have any questions?
Well, I got my pen on.
That's not a question.
Thank you for bringing that to all of us so we can discuss that. And also, I want to thank Melinda Dart for
not
the
a
work that
question.
AFT is doing, because at the PIAC meeting, she gave us all sort of overall about what they're doing already. The teachers are already trying to learn some of that Common Core. So thank you for the time that you're putting in so that we will be prepared. And we finally get the guidelines from the state, which seems to be a little late getting to us. But thank you for what you're doing, and we hope that we can all partner together to help this be a reality so our students can do it. Thank you.
Ms. Dart, did you say that there's other organizations and unions that are part of this initiative?
Yes. Yeah, the California Labor Federation signed on to it, the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, the NEA, the National Education Association, and then locally there's been a lot of different groups that are signing on. In San Francisco, ACE, ACCE, which used to be ACORN. Actually, I attended one meeting in Oakland with ACE around the principles that unite us, and they gave input into them. So the principles have been based on community input at a lot of meetings across the country.
All right.
And of course, in some places, the situation is much
A
worse
little
in
different.
terms of many schools being closed and more deprivation. But so people are kind of rising up, claiming their schools again.
All right. And will there be any other activities or?
Yeah, we can keep you posted, and there is an activity in March that our local union and AFT together is putting on March 8th. We're going to have a conference on the Common Core state standards for parents, especially aimed at EL parents, and we have some Spanish-speaking experts on the Common Core coming through AFT. And I think we're going to hold, the principal at Woodrow Wilson has agreed to host it. The only question is Woodrow Wilson big enough? So, or will it be really, how big will it be? So we're trying to get that settled, but we will keep you posted on that. And we look forward to being able to offer that to parents in our community.
All right, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Dart.
Thank you.
Any correspondence or comments from?
Recognize
Oh, certainly.
Marta Bookbinder, former school board member, for coming to see Preston.
Thank you, Ms. Binder. Okay, now, Mr. Vidalis, is there any correspondence or superintendent comments?
Just that, just returned from 3 days down in Southern California at the California School Board Association conference with some of you, and we'll be starting to hear board reports from those of you who attended in January. So if you haven't already told me what your preference is, let me know the next couple of weeks so we can put you on the agenda. And if you don't contact me, I will contact you.
I thought you said you don't contact us, I mean, if we don't contact you, we go first, is that?
Mr. Ali has already volunteered to go first, so.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, and this requires a roll call. Ms. Cover?
Mr. Otidy?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Mr. Ali?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Dr. Douglas?
Aye. Okay, item 3, general functions, governing board meeting dates for the year 2014.
All of these that have a star.
So every year, the governing board selects the dates to hold regular governing board meetings. They are all on the second or fourth Wednesday of the month, with the exception of, we have just the second Wednesday in July and the fourth Wednesday in August, the second Wednesday in November, and the second Wednesday in December. The summer one is to allow for board vacation and staff vacation. Likely, I will need to request sort of dates that you'll be in town in case we need to hold a special meeting sometime in July, because that is about a 6-week break, and we may need to do a meeting, a hiring, or something like that. But hopefully not. Hopefully we can truly enjoy those 6 weeks.
That would be good.
Okay, any discussion on that? We have a motion.
Makes sense.
Yeah, do you have a motion to approve the proposed calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve the calendar for the year 2014, school year 2014.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Should it be 2014, 15?
Actually,
They're all just for the 2014
Yeah, it
calendar
actually
year,
follows the
from
calendar.
January through December.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think of the school year, forget it, what am I saying?
It's not the one.
I'll leave it the way I said it the first time.
okay. And that brings us to item 9, approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Agreement for Purchase and Sale of Real Property.
So, I can speak to this one.
Oh, okay.
As you know, we're selling the Christopher Columbus property, and it's actually supposed to close this Friday, the 13th, which is, this might be a good thing having on the agenda here. I did speak with the officials at Lennar, and they have requested to extend that closing date to March 3rd. The reason for the extension is they would like to be able to start working on the property immediately after getting it. So we have negotiated a price for doing that, and the district would charge them $175,000 for this 81-day extension. This $175,000 would be on top of the price that they're paying for the property, so it's a separate deal, and it does not go towards the purchase price of the property. Currently, we're getting approximately 0.75 interest on our funds, and this will be approximately 4.5% interest to the district.
How much?
I'm sorry?
How much you said?
4.5% interest, this is what it
4.5%.
will be. So we will be giving up about $30,000, and we'll be getting $175,000 for that period of time. Administration does recommend that we move forward with this amendment.
Just a small question. How did you come up with the $175,000 figure?
Negotiation.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's not where they started.
I'm
No.
sure. That's
We
why.
started at $25,000.
All right.
Well, Very well done.
Thank you. I felt very happy that day.
Started higher than that.
We must have, but still.
Yeah,
Bottom of the
And-
line.
negotiate,
Yes.
you come to a middle.
Okay, any other questions, deliberation? Do I have a motion?
Just another point of information, just, it also just clarifies a little bit about how we transfer the
Oh,
property.
yes.
We do have an interest in some items that are there that are sort of affixed, like to the door and to the walls, like alarm panels and doorknobs and things like that, that we just want to make sure that we can get access to them, because we could reuse them at our other school sites. So this also clarifies that whole process.
Okay.
Right, and the purpose for that is that we want to make sure the property is secured while we are the owners of it. So it's the alarm system, as well as Mr. Vidala said, the hardware to the doors. We wouldn't want people to be able to get into it while it is in our possession. And of course, we also want it to be secure after, but it becomes no longer our responsibility.
Well, it sounds like they're going to start dismantling right away, so. Yeah. Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve. Just one question. Is holding on to it for until March, is there any cost to us?
The 30,000 that we would lose in interest for having
Mhm.
in the bank, but we will make
What about maintenance or security or anything like that? Is there any over,
There are some low costs to that.
but negligible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking maybe $1,000.
So, would you like to make?
I made the
that
motion, yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? Okay, great. Yeah. We'll give a little round of applause on that one.
We should have done this before we had this.
Yeah.
Really.
Congratulations, we just made $175,000.
That's right.
We made 140.
Well,
45.
140, yes,
Still, not bad for 2 minutes' work.
yes.
Okay.
Well,
That
More than
brings
2
us
minutes
to Section 2, Curriculum Instruction. Item 1, Acceptance of Donations.
I would like to take lead because, like I said, every penny counts. So I'd like to publicly thank environmental volunteers, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Ms. Wendy Holler, Wells Fargo Peninsula Market, and Mr. George Vega, Philanthropic Ventures Foundation, and the Gabel family, Wells Fargo Foundation Educational Matching Gift Program, and Save Mart Supermarket Shares Program. Thank you very much. I would like to approve and accept these donations.
also Miss Michelle Pautau. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but
Sorry about that.
yeah.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
With thanks. Okay. Section 3, Business and Financial Procedures. Item 2, First Interim Budget Review.
That's where you want to pay attention.
Ms. Kessler.
Afraid to ask questions, too.
You want one?
I'm sure we're gonna have a couple.
Well, the audience has diminished. It's bigger than my regular audience, so.
With all of us, basically. She works with Barney, really.
So in front of you is my presentation for the first interim report. School boards are required to certify the projected current year and subsequent 2-year financial condition of the district twice a year. These are called the interim reports. The first interim report is a snapshot of time at October 31st of each year, and the second interim report is as of January 31st of each year. Presented tonight is the first interim report, and it includes financial projections for years 14-15 and 15-16, which are part of the official report. But in this presentation, I also include year 16-17, which is not in the official report that will be going to the county. So actually, I want to say this is rather exciting times. It's exciting because there looks like we will have opportunity. And It's hard to say what the opportunity is going to be, but we will be reporting to you on a regular basis, and we'll see how it turns out. So basically, to recap, on August 14th, I gave a more in-depth presentation about the local control funding formula, the LCFF, and that is on the district website. You can see the presentation as well as the attachment for greater detail if anybody is interested in doing that. So the state passed the 13-14 budget, and the parts that affect school districts, the biggest thing is the local control funding formula was adopted. This is a departure from the revenue limit method of determining what the funding is going to be for education in California. This is a huge change. The revenue limit was used for over 30 years, and now we're going to something that is simpler. It will be simpler. It's complicated making the change, and especially right now because the board adopted the 13-14 budget for this year under the revenue limit, and now we've switched over to the local control funding formula. So this is one time where we're comparing apples and oranges, and in the future we'll be able to compare apples to apples because we will be comparing the LCFF to the LCFF. So this is just a really quick review of what the LCFF is. First off, it's going to be funded over an 8-year period, fully funded in year 2020-21 if everything goes according to the plan. But practice could very well be different and is likely to be different. It is made up of a base grant, which is a certain dollar amount per student by grade span. So we have the TK through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 8 for our district. And so every school district will have that same amount instead of like fluctuating different amounts. And then on top of that, we will get what's called the supplemental grant, and that's going to be 20% of what the base grant is, times the number of unduplicated count students. And down here I say the unduplicated count students are the percentage of the district students who are free or reduced, or English learners, or foster youth. They can't, if they fall into 2 categories, they're only counted once. So the percentage of our students that fall into that will be our unduplicated count. And I'll get into it a little bit more for our district later on. So we will take that 20% of the base grant amount and multiply that out by our percentage of unduplicated count. Then we have the concentration grant, which will be 50% of the base grant amount, but only times the number of students in the unduplicated account that is above 55%. So school districts that have only 20%, they'll get nothing here. Future slides are ahead, but we have 77.4%. So we are well above the 55%, so we will be getting more funds for that. But I'll be telling you that again later. And then there's some basic add-ons, the TIG and the home to school transportation. As you probably know, the LCFF rolls in together the money we used to get for revenue limit as well as some categorical programs. Well, almost all the categorical programs. But these 2 categorical programs, they've just decided they're not going to roll them in. They're going to freeze them at that amount. They'll never get COLA. They'll never be increased. But they're continuing to fund it because there were some districts that were very dependent, particularly on the transportation in rural areas. So that is the target. If we do this math here, it'll tell us what our target is for the funding for year 2021. The funding for 13-14 is a hold harmless funding. So what that's going to be is the funding that we receive for 2012-13 plus all our categorical programs. That is the hold harmless. That's the floor. So that's the floor and that's the ceiling. We have the gap, and the gap is the difference between the floor and the ceiling. And that's what they're going to spend the 8 years funding. So what they're doing for the 13-14 year is the state is putting $2.1 billion towards the funding of this gap. And what that looks like is a COLA of 1.565%, as well as 11.78% funding of that gap. In addition, they're putting $1.8 billion towards buying back the inter-year deferrals. And those are a one-year buyback. Once again, once they buy them back, they don't have to continue that each year. It's just an IOU that they're paying off instead of us getting the monies in the following year. And then also, as you know, they've funded Common Core, $1.25 billion for Common Core, which is approximately $200 per student. So I want to go over right now the difference between the adopted budget, what you adopted under the revenue limit, and this interim presentation, the interim that I'm going to ask you to approve. And again, when we get to the second interim, we'll be comparing apples to apples. So right here, this is the revenue change. You can see there's considerable changes here. $7 million up, $4.5 million down, almost $1 million down. So this is kind of like a shell game right now. This is realigning the money that we're going to be getting, moving things away from categorical programs into LCFF, then having to contribute because things are coming out of restricted and into unrestricted. So there's all sorts of things going on. And so really the bottom line is we have an additional $2.1 million this year. And in these different areas, the LCFF, the federal, the state, the local, and contributions.
Say
And these are
additional.
contributions that we make to our restricted programs, because what I'm showing you here is our unrestricted funds.
Just to be clear, are restricted funds meaning funds that are restricted specifically for one thing? So like
yes.
Christopher Columbus.
Yes, specific, like for instance, special ed funding is specifically restricted for that, or lottery, Prop 20 lottery is specifically for instructional materials, such. So the previous slide showed all these different amounts. I'm going to go over what the changes were on this slide. So we went from the revenue limit to the LCFF, and that brought us in $7.1 million. And like I said, it's a shell game, so don't get too excited about the $7.1 million right here. And that has to do with a few things. First off, LCFF is funding us at a higher rate than we expected. When we adopted the budget, we adopted it recognizing COLA and recognizing a reduction in deficit factor. This, you don't even have to learn this now because it's gone. That's a thing of the past, but these other four know that the deficit structure, deficit factor was reducing. They said instead of giving you $1 on a dollar, we're going to give you 78 cents on a dollar. So that thing is gone. It's been replaced by the gap. So it's a different.
Distinction without a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. It's being called something else, but there's greater hope in it. So when we recognized the decrease in the deficit factor and the increase in COLA, that amount was less than the amount that they actually were going to fund us. And so that is part of this amount here. Then we have an increase of 76, expected increase of 76 ADA because we have higher enrollment. And then also there was this transfer of these categorical programs that had flexibility, so they didn't go into the restricted, they went into the unrestricted state revenues. So you see the $4.4 million reduction. Well, that's because this money moved into this category. Okay, that's the unrestricted portion. But we also have an restricted portion that moved into this category. Later on, we have to take that and move some down here. Anyway, local revenues have also increased. We got our final amount from the Lehman Brothers settlement of $149,000. We also have increased lease revenues and site donations that have come in. And so we adjust these as we receive them. We don't anticipate donations from, to our school sites until we receive them. Then we recognize them. And then this, which when you have an increase in contributions, that is a decrease in revenues, because we're contributing from unrestricted to restricted, and so it's a reduction in our revenues. That's the way the books are. It's not an expense, it's a reduction of revenues. And so the biggest part of that was the fact that EIA and home-to-school transportation, which were always in restricted, are now coming into us in unrestricted, but we still have to use them in a restricted manner. So we are moving the funds over to restricted and spending them out of that.
Right.
It's what we have to do. It's the way. And so that was the biggest portion. And then also another big portion was the property tax transfer from the COE. And that's how we get money for the state special ed comes in through local property taxes. And the county informs us of what that amount is going to be, and we were informed recently that the amount is higher than they expected. So this is how it all pans out, and all in all, when you put all these shells in one bucket, we have $2.1 million more money than we adopted in the original budget adoption.
And that's all unrestricted?
We'll get to that.
That was what she was.
That's coming.
All right.
So then we go to the expenditures. Easier. Expenditures are, well, yeah, they are easier. They still kind of relate to that whole LCFF, but they're not as complicated as the others. So as you can see, the expenditures have gone up by almost 1.3 million. And we'll look on the next slide, but here's just the graph, and here's the different areas. The 1,000s are certificated salaries, 2,000s are classified salaries, 3,000s are benefits for both groups, and then we have your books, your services, and other items. So I'm going to explain those to you. So the $1.7 million increase in salaries is 6% increase. So we have a 6% increase for all employees, and that also means a 6% increase in statutory benefits. So PERS, STRS, Social Security, unemployment insurance, all those are increased as well. And we also have the one-time increase towards medical benefits. So that's also a part of this $1.7 million increase. We have a decrease in expenditures for books and supplies. And normally you're going like, well, we usually have an increase there because we end up bringing in our carryover and our site donations. The reason why it's a decrease is because the Common Core, if you recall, we were going to spend money for technology to prepare for Common Core. But when we adopted the budget, we hadn't received any Common Core funding yet. The state hadn't approved the budget, and Common Core funding wasn't there. So, since the state approved the budget with Common Core in it, Common Core is a restricted expenditure, a restricted revenue, so that is in the restricted. So we are taking $650,000 that we planned in unrestricted expenditures to support technology for Common Core, and we are moving it to the restricted program that is now going to be funded by the state. So that's why this is a reduction instead of an increase. Services, there's an increase, and that is mostly because of the site donations and carryovers, as well as some additional services that we've contracted with. And this one, we're hoping the A2A will actually bring us money. It should not only pay for itself, it should exceed it. We hope. And then some copy machines, and then also indirect cost. We set aside an amount for what we feel that we might have to charge other programs, and then depending on the cost of other programs, And if they're in restricted or unrestricted, there was a reduction in unrestricted funding, so there was also a reduction in the indirect cost rate that we're charging that. So,
When you say programs, what are you talking about?
I'm sorry?
When you said the other outgo decrease, you said if you're taking the money from programs?
So what happens is, yes, there's an indirect cost rate that we charge programs. So in other words, like for instance, special ed. Special ed doesn't get charged for the accounting staff, the heating, electricity. It doesn't get charged for any of those. And so what we do is we take, there's a formula that the system does, determines what our indirect cost rate is, and then we're able to charge programs that expenditure.
All right.
So, and that relieves, so it gives more unrestricted funds to the general fund so that we can turn around and contribute them back.
Shell game.
So, when you originally adopted the budget, we expected to have an end fund balance at the end of this fiscal year, so June 2014, of $18.5 million. We have an increase in revenues of $1.2 million and an increase in expenditures of approximately $1.3 million. So our end fund balance, again, June 2014, is now expected to be $19.5 million.
That's good.
These are just reserves, and we have a 5% reserve for economic uncertainty, a book reserve that's been going down $200,000 a year. We've got one more year of it for the math program, and then a book reserve. So we have in available funds, available one-time funds, available reserves, is almost $16 million, and we do use these to help us with cash flow. There are still deferrals.
Yeah.
Have we ever thought about using the reserves to invest so we can have the money constantly revolving?
Invest? Well, we invest by having our money make interest. That's all we can do
Okay.
in the county treasurer.
Okay.
So we can't invest in anything that would be,
Actually profitable.
yeah, that would be risky. So
Well, yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm not even keeping up with
Comment on
this.
that.
Okay, so the multi-year projection, which I'm going to be showing you, because what you're going to be certifying is that we can meet our current obligations and our obligations for the next 2 years. So in order for, when you look at those numbers, you've got to know what are our assumptions, what are we assuming when we're developing those out-year financials. And what we're saying here is that in the year 2014-15, we are saying that the gap in funding for the LCFF is going to be funded at 4.5%, and that we're going to get 1.8% COLA. And then in 15-16 at 5.5%, and we're going to get 2.3% COLA. And then here, for the unofficial one, we're just leaving it flat because we don't know what that's supposed to be, and we have 2.5% COLA. Now, the state is projecting 16.5% and 18.5% of funding of that gap. Now, this is just for the multi-year projection. This isn't actually in the budget. It's just for the projection. We do it more conservatively. School Services of California felt that it was aggressive to think that the state would really meet
Actually, yeah.
that 8-year funding obligation.
All right.
And so this was, the 4.5 and the 5.5 are coming from school services and what they feel would be safe to recognize. So what we're saying here is it's safe to recognize that. Now,